The small space station called Whisper 7 was quiet. It was built inside a giant dark rock floating at the very edge of known space. Its job was to listen, to watch the empty blackness and report anything it found. Most of the time it found nothing. Inside, the air was clean and cool. The low hum of machines was the only sound. Captain Lee Jun sat at his desk looking at reports on a screen. The reports were always the same. Nothing new. Nothing strange. He was a calm man, good at his job. He liked the quiet. Across the room, Specialist Kim Mina worked at the communications console. Her fingers moved quickly, checking the equipment that talked to Earth. It was a very long-distance call. She also watched the sensors, the electronic eyes that looked out into the dark. She was young and very smart. She often wondered what was really out there. In another part of the small station, Sergeant Park Day checked the weapons. The station had one small defense laser. It was mostly for shooting small rocks that might get too close. It was not meant for a real fight. No one ever came out this far. Park Day was a practical man. He believed in being ready, even if he never needed to be. "This is Whisper 7, all systems normal," Captain Jun said into the recorder. His voice was steady. "End of shift report." He closed the file. Another day was almost over. Mina smiled from her chair. "Maybe tomorrow we will find a new star, Captain." Jun allowed a small smile. "Maybe, Mina, but I think the universe will keep its secrets for one more day." Suddenly, a quiet beeping sound came from Mina's console. It was a soft sound, but in the quiet room it was very loud. It was not a normal sound. It was the sound the machine made when it found something new. Mina turned to her screen. Her smile was gone. Her eyes were focused. "Captain," she said. "I have something." Jun stood up and walked over to her. "What is it?" "A gravity signal," she said, pointing at a line on her screen. "It is very big, and it is moving. Very, very fast." The line on the screen was not like the gentle curve of a planet or a star. It was a sharp, direct line. It was moving in a way that was not natural. Something was making it. Something intelligent. "This is not one of ours," Jun said quietly. He felt a tightness in his chest. This was it. First contact. The thing every deep space worker dreamed of and also feared. "Should I send the standard greeting?" Mina asked. She had a list of messages to send. Peaceful messages in many different languages. Pictures of Earth. Maps of our solar system. "Yes. Send the first contact package. All frequencies," Jun ordered. His voice was calm, but his heart was beating faster. Mina's fingers flew across the console. Sending now. They waited. The seconds felt like hours. There was no answer. The thing on the screen kept coming faster and faster. "Try again," Jun said. She tried again. No response. "It is not answering. It is not slowing down." Jun moved to the station's main sensor screen. He zoomed in. The gravity signal was now a ship. A real physical ship. It was still too far away to see details, but the computer drew its shape. It was jagged and sharp like a piece of broken glass. It was a dark black color that seemed to suck the light from around it. It looked wrong. "Sergeant Park," Jun said into the intercom. "Come to the command room now." A moment later, Park Day came in. He saw their faces. He saw the strange ship on the screen. "What is that?" he asked, his voice low. "We do not know," Jun said. "It will not talk to us." Park Day looked at the ship. He did not like it. It did not look like a friendly visitor. "The defense laser is ready," he said. "But it will not do much against that." The ship on the screen was much bigger than their small station. The alien ship did not change its course. It flew straight towards them. It did not slow down. It was not a visit. It was an approach, and then it stopped. It hung in space right outside the asteroid. It was massive. It blocked the view of the stars. The station was silent. The three humans looked at the screen, at the dark, silent ship. They waited. The front of the ship began to glow. A bright green light gathered at its tip. "It is powering a weapon," Park Day shouted. "Send a distress signal." Jun yelled to Mina, but it was too late. A beam of brilliant green plasma fired from the alien ship. It was not a laser bolt. It was a continuous, thick lance of energy. It moved silently through the vacuum of space and hit the asteroid. The rock of the asteroid did not stop it. The station's weak shield did not stop it. The beam cut through the rock and the metal of Whisper 7 like a hot knife through butter. The world exploded. The first hit was the loudest sound Jun had ever heard. It was the sound of metal tearing and rock breaking. The floor shook violently. The lights went out, replaced by the flashing red of emergency lights. An alarm screamed. June was thrown across the room. He hit a metal console hard. A sharp, hot pain shot up his leg. He heard a crack. He cried out. Mina held onto her console. The main lights were dead, but her screen was still on, showing error messages. She saw that the entire section where Sergeant Park had been was gone. There was just a hole open to space. The air was rushing out. She could see the stars through the hole. Sergeant Park was gone. Just gone. Life support failing, a computer voice said. Hull breach in sections 2 and 3. June tried to stand, but the pain in his leg was too great. He fell back. Mina! He coughed. The air was getting thin. It was getting hard to breathe. Mina crawled over to him. Her face was cut from flying pieces of glass. Captain! Your leg! Never mind my leg, he said, his voice weak. The emergency beacon. You have to send it. Mina looked at the main communications panel. It was dark and broken. The standard beacon was dead, but the hypertransmitter, the one for sending big data files, was on a different power line. It might still work? I can try the hypertransmitter, she said. I can send the data. Do it, June said, closing his eyes against the pain. Mina crawled back to her station. Her body ached. The air was cold now. She pulled herself into her chair. With shaking hands, she began to work. She rerouted all the remaining station power. She bypassed the broken systems. She pulled up the last sensor logs. She included the recording of the attack. The image of the ship, everything. She looked at June. He was pale. He was not moving much. She typed a final message. A simple one. Unprovoked attack. Whisper 7 destroyed. 1 survivor. This is what hit us. Her finger hovered over the final button. She looked at the main screen. The view from the outside camera was still working. The alien ship was still there. It was just hanging in space. It was not coming to finish them. It was not coming to take them. It was just waiting to see if they were all dead. It did not care about them at all. They were insects. She pressed the button. A low whine built through the station as the hypertransmitter used the last of the power. The lights flickered and died. The alarm stopped. The station was silent and dark. The message was gone, flying faster than light towards Earth. In the new silence and darkness, June opened his eyes. He could see the alien ship on the dead screen, lit by the light of the stars. It was the last thing he saw before his eyes closed. He felt cold. He felt peace. The alien ship turned slowly. Its work was done. It moved away back into the deep black from which it came, leaving only the broken pieces of a station and the silence of the void. The message from Whisper 7 arrived at Earth Defense Command, like a ghost screaming from the grave. It was a burst of raw, compressed data, tagged with the highest priority code. It bypassed all normal channels and flashed onto the main screen in the central command room. General Park Soo-jin was drinking coffee when it happened. She was reviewing reports about supply shipments. It was a normal, boring day. Then the room went dark and the main holotank glowed to life. The words priority, Alpha, loss of signal, Whisper 7 were written in stark red letters. The room fell silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing. Loss of signal could mean many things. A systems failure, a comet strike. But a priority alpha tag meant it was not an accident. Play the transmission, General Park said. Her voice was calm, but her hand tightened around her coffee cup. The data unpacked itself. First, the sensor logs. They saw the gravity anomaly. They saw the speed. The officers in the room murmured. This was technology beyond anything humans had. Then the visual came. A ship, black and jagged like a piece of a nightmare. It filled the screen. There was no hail, no request to talk. It was just there. A young lieutenant spoke. It's a first contact scenario. They must be trying to... He did not finish his sentence. On the screen, the green plasma beam fired. The sound from the station's internal microphones was terrible. It was the sound of metal screaming and rock breaking. The camera view shook violently. Alarms blared. They heard Captain June's voice yelling to send a distress call. They heard Specialist Kim Mina's quick breathing. They heard the final, sickening crunch of impact, and then the rush of air escaping into space. The camera in the command room was still working. It showed Specialist Mina, her face cut, crawling to Captain June. They saw her look at the screen, at the alien ship just waiting. They saw her type her final message. They saw her press the button. Then the screen from Whisper 7 went black. The command room on Earth was utterly silent. The only sound was the quiet hum of computers. The red word "signal lost" now glowed on the screen. General Park put her coffee cup down. She did it slowly and carefully. She looked at the faces of her staff. They were young, some of them. They looked shocked. They looked scared. "Analysis," she said. Her voice cut through the silence. A senior analyst cleared his throat. "The attack was unprovoked, General. We sent first contact protocols. They did not respond. They did not scan us. They simply destroyed the station." "Casualties?" General Park asked, though she already knew the answer. Sergeant Park Day's life signs were lost in the initial impact. Captain Lee Jun and Specialist Kim Mina's signs failed when life support ended. "The station is a complete loss." Another officer, a man named General Briggs from a Western Alliance, spoke. "This is an act of war. A brutal, unprovoked act of war. We must mobilize the fleet. We must show them we will not be intimidated." General Park turned to the main screen. "Show me the attack again." From the beginning, they watched it again. The silent approach, the ignored hails, the immediate weapon fire, the utter lack of interest in the result. When it was over, General Park spoke quietly. "This was not an act of war, General Briggs." Briggs looked confused. "What are you talking about?" "They attacked a civilian installation." "Look at the data," Park said, her voice still low but now hard as steel. "Look at the ship's behavior. It did not attack to gain a military advantage. It did not attack to take territory. It did not even stay to confirm the kill. It saw a small, isolated structure. It removed it. It was not a declaration of war. It was pest control." The room was silent again as people understood her meaning. "If they do this to a listening post," General Park continued, "what will they do to a mining colony? A farming world? To Earth itself? They are not coming to talk. They are not coming to negotiate. They are coming to clean, to erase. They have shown us what they are. So what do you propose?" General Briggs asked, his face pale. "A direct fleet engagement? Our analysis shows their shields and weapons are superior. It would be a massacre. We would lose." General Park nodded slowly. "You are correct. A fair fight would be a losing fight. So we will not give them a fair fight." She walked to the center of the room. She entered a long code on a keyboard. A new hidden menu appeared on the screen. It was labeled Project Final Measure. "What is that?" Briggs asked. "It is the answer," General Park said. "It was created for a threat that could not be reasoned with. A threat that could not be fought. A threat that needed to be removed completely." She opened the file. Schematics for a ship appeared. It was not a warship. It was a small, stealthy frigate. It had no big guns. It had a large, strange payload module attached to its belly. "The EDS Vengeance," she said. "Its mission is not to fight their fleet. Its mission is to find their home." "You want to bomb their planet?" another officer asked. "No," General Park said. She zoomed in on the payload. It was a complex, non-explosive device. Bombs can be shot down. Bombs can be shielded against. This is something else. This is a stellar locust charge. No one in the room had heard of it. They looked at each other, confused. "It does not blow up," General Park explained. "It is delivered into the star of the target system. It starts a chain reaction in the star's core. It makes the star die. Quickly." The silence in the room was now heavy with horror. You can't be serious," General Briggs whispered. "You would kill a star? You would destroy a whole world? An entire system? There could be billions of lives there. People who are not soldiers." General Park turned to face him. Her eyes were like dark stones. "Did you see any life on that ship that looked like it could be reasoned with? Did you see any hesitation? Any mercy? They are a hive, a single mind. The worker and the soldier are the same. The planet is the enemy." She looked around the room, meeting the gaze of every person. "This is not a punishment. This is a surgical removal. We are cutting out a cancer before it spreads. We have one chance. If we fail, if we show weakness, they will come for all of us. I will not let the deaths of Captain June, Specialist Mina, and Sergeant Park be the first of billions." She stood straight. "I am authorizing Project Final Measure. The EDS Vengeance will be prepared for immediate launch. We will use the vector data from Whisper 7 to find their home. And we will erase them. There were no cheers. There were no arguments. There was only a grim acceptance. They had seen the video. They knew she was right. It was a terrible choice, but it was the only one. Orders were sent. In a hidden shipyard orbiting Mars, crews began working at a frantic pace. The EDS Vengeance was moved into position. Its special payload was carefully loaded into its belly. General Park returned to her office. She looked at a picture on her wall. It was a picture of Earth taken from space, a beautiful blue and white marble. She had sworn to protect it. She would protect it, even if it meant staining her soul forever. She would make the choice so that others would not have to. The message had been received. The decision had been made. Earth was not going to declare war. Earth was going to issue a death sentence. The EDS Vengeance slid through space like a shadow. It was a long, needle-thin ship, painted a perfect black that absorbed light. Its engines were silent, its heat signature was near zero. It was a ghost. Inside, the crew of 12 worked in total silence. The only sounds were the soft beeps of consoles and the quiet hum of life support. The mood was heavy. They all knew what they were carrying. They had all seen the recording from Whisper 7. The pilot, Choi Tai-min, watched the starfield ahead. His hands were steady on the controls. He was the best pilot in the fleet. He had to be. One wrong move, one tiny mistake, and they would all be dead. The weapons officer, Kang Hana, monitored the special payload. It was a large, cylinder-shaped device in the ship's belly. Her screen showed complex diagrams of the star it was designed to kill. She did not like to look at it for too long. Entering the target system now, Choi Tai-min said, his voice a whisper. On the main screen, a star appeared. It was a yellow sun very much like Earth's, and orbiting it was a single planet. It was not blue and green. It was gray and brown. The entire surface was covered in hard, geometric structures. Hives. There were no oceans. There were no forests. There were only machines and buildings, all connected like a terrible insect nest. Swarms of ships like the one that killed Whisper 7 flew around the planet. They looked like angry bees guarding their hive. Orbital defenses are active, Kang Hana reported. She pointed to her screen. Energy readings are extremely high. A full fleet could not get through that. That is why we are not a fleet, Choi Tai-min said quietly. We are a whisper. He guided the Vengeance carefully. They did not head for the planet. They moved slowly, silently towards the edge of the system. They were aiming for the star. Their plan was to use the star's own light and energy to hide them. They would fly close into the chaotic region of the star's outer atmosphere, the corona. It was a place of immense heat and violent magnetic storms. No sane pilot would ever go there. It was their only chance. Approaching the corona, Tai-min said. His knuckles were white. The ship's external temperature sensors began to climb. The screen showed a raging ocean of fire ahead of them. The ship shuddered as it hit the first waves of superheated gas. Alarms beeped softly, warning of the extreme heat. The stealth systems were working hard to dump the heat and keep them hidden. 2 patrol ships on a standard sweep, Kang Hana said, her eyes glued to the sensor screen. They are 10,000 kilometers away. They do not see us, Tai-min did not answer. He was focused on flying. He guided the ship deeper into the corona. The light outside the windows was a blinding white. The ship groaned and vibrated. It felt like they were flying inside a sun. Hold her steady, Kang Hana said. I am beginning the payload activation sequence. Her fingers moved across her console. The stellar locust charge came to life. It began to glow with a soft internal light. The patrol ships are turning, another crew member said, his voice tight with fear. I think they detected an energy spike from the payload. It does not matter, Tai-min said, his voice calm. We are almost in position. They cannot get to us through this. The alien patrol ships moved towards the corona. They stopped at the edge. They fired probing energy beams into the fiery gas, but they could not see the small dark ship hiding within. Payload is ready, Kang Hana said, opening the bay doors. A section of the Vengeance's belly slid open. The intense light of the star flooded the bay. The charge was visible now, held in place by magnetic clamps. We are in the target zone, Tai-min said. The delivery point is now. Kang Hana took a deep breath. This was it. She pressed the final button. Payload released. The magnetic clamps let go. The stellar locust charge fell away from the ship. It was immediately caught by the star's powerful gravity. It plunged down into the heart of the sun. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Vengeance's sensors went wild. The star's light flickered. It was a tiny, almost invisible change, a brief dimming, like a light bulb losing power for a second. The charge is active, Kang Hana reported. She looked at her screen. The cascade had begun. Deep inside the star, the laws of physics were being twisted. The star was starting to die. Bay doors closed, Taman said. Now we get out of here. He turned the ship, pushing the engines to their silent maximum. They shot out of the corona away from the star. The two patrol ships were still there, but they were looking at the star, confused by the strange energy reading. They did not see the shadow slipping away behind them. The Vengeance moved fast, heading for the dark edge of the system. No one spoke. The mission was a success. They had planted the seed of death in an enemy sun, but no one felt like celebrating. They had just killed a world. They had just murdered a star. They flew on into the silent dark, leaving the doomed system behind them. Their job was done. The response had been delivered. Now they just had to wait for the end. Back on Earth, in the deep command center, General Park Soo-jin waited. The room was quiet. A large clock on the main screen counted down. It showed the time until the stellar locust charge finished its work. The senior staff sat around the table. No one spoke. They drank coffee. They looked at reports they did not really read. They were all waiting. General Briggs finally broke the silence. Is there any change? Any sign they detected the weapon? An analyst shook his head. No, sir. The Cathar activity is normal. Their ships are moving as always. They are patrolling. They are mining asteroids. They do not know. General Park said nothing. She watched the clock. She thought about the crew of the Vengeance. She thought about the people on the planet below that star. Were they individuals? Did they have families? Did they feel fear? She pushed the thoughts away. They were not people. They were a threat, a disease. The clock reached 0. A soft beep sounded in the room. The main screen switched its view. It now showed a live feed from a powerful telescope. The screen showed the Cathar star, a bright yellow point of light. Show me the sensor data, General Park said. The view on the screen changed. It showed complex graphs and numbers. For a long time, nothing happened. The star burned as it always had. Then a young technician pointed at the screen. Look, the graph showing the star's core temperature dipped. It was a small dip, almost nothing. Then it dipped again, deeper this time. On the visual screen, the star seemed to flicker. It was like a candle in a gentle wind. Its bright yellow light softened just a little, to a dimmer orange. It has begun, the lead scientist said. His voice hushed. On the Cathar homeworld, the change was subtle at first. The bright yellow daylight grew softer. The shadows became less sharp. The planet's surface, which was always hot, began to cool. The temperature dropped 1 degree. Then 2. The Cathar on the surface felt the change. Their hive mind, which never knew fear, felt a disturbance. A wrongness. They looked up at their sun. It was dimming. They did not understand. They had no stories about dying suns. They had no concept of an end to their world. Their ships near the star detected the massive energy shifts. They sent urgent signals to the planet. But there was nothing to be done. There was no enemy to fight, no shield to raise. The attack was not coming from outside. It was coming from within their own sun. On the screen on Earth, the changes became faster. The star's color shifted from orange to a deep, bloody red. The light from the system became weak and strange. The star is collapsing, the scientist explained. It is skipping billions of years of life in a few hours. It is becoming a red giant, and then it will collapse further. The red light from the star illuminated the Cathar world. The temperature was dropping fast now. Ice began to form on the metal structures. The atmosphere itself was starting to freeze. Tiny crystals of oxygen and nitrogen fell like snow. The Cathar on the surface moved more slowly. The cold was seeping into their hard shells. Their machines were freezing solid. Their ships in orbit lost power and went dark, becoming frozen tombs. Then the final stage began. The red giant star began to shrink. It collapsed inward. It pulled all its light and heat back into its core. The screen from Earth showed the red light shrinking, getting smaller and smaller. The Cathar world was now in total darkness. The last heat fled into space. The air became a solid, frozen sheet on the ground. The oceans, if there were any, were now blocks of solid ice. Every building, every ship, every single Cathar was frozen instantly. Nothing moved. The star continued to collapse. It shrank down to a tiny dark point. And then, in a final silent flash that gave off no light and no heat, it winked out. The screen went black. Where there had been a bright, living star system, there was now only empty blackness. A void. A dead sun and a frozen, lifeless rock. In the command room on Earth, no one moved. They had just watched a world die. They had just watched an entire civilization be erased from existence. There was no explosion, no fire, just an end. General Briggs let out a long, shaky breath. "My God," he whispered. General Park Soo-jin stood up. She looked at the black screen for a long moment. Then she turned to face her staff. "The threat is neutralized," she said. Her voice was flat and empty. "The Cathar are gone. There is nothing left to fear from them." She did not wait for a response. She turned and walked out of the command room. The door hissed shut behind her. The people left in the room looked at each other. They had won. They had saved humanity from a terrible enemy. But the victory felt hollow. It felt cold. They had not fought a battle. They had committed an act of cosmic murder. They had answered violence with absolute total annihilation. The galaxy had just learned a new, terrible truth about humanity. Do not attack their children. Do not attack their homes, or they will not just kill you. They will erase your sun from the sky. The salvage ship EDS Reclaimer moved slowly through the wreckage. It was a sad and lonely place. Pieces of broken metal and rock floated everywhere. This was all that was left of listening post Whisper 7. Captain Insick of the Reclaimer watched his screens. He did not expect to find anything alive. The attack had happened weeks ago. This was a mission to recover data, not people. "Scan for the main computer core," he told his crew. "Look for any black boxes." His sensor operator, a young woman named Ji-eun, nodded. Her screen showed a map of the debris. Then a small weak signal appeared at the very edge of her range. "Captain," she said, her voice unsure, "I have something. It's not a computer. It's a life pod." "A cryopod." Captain Insick leaned forward. "A cryopod? Are you sure?" "The signal is very weak, but yes. It's buried under a large piece of the outer hull. It's still functioning." A new energy filled the ship. The crew moved quickly. They used careful laser cutters and robotic arms to move the heavy debris. Underneath, they found a single survival pod. It was battered and scarred. A small red light on its side blinked slowly, a stubborn heart still beating in the dark. They brought the pod into the hangar bay. The air was tense as the medical team opened it. Inside, lying pale and still, was a man. It was Captain Lee Jun. His uniform was torn and there was a dark injury on his leg. He was not moving. The head doctor, Dr. Kwan, checked his vital signs. "He's alive," she said, her voice full of surprise. The cryosystem kept him in suspended animation. "His injuries are bad, but he is alive." They rushed him to the medical bay. For many days, Lee Jun hung between life and death. His body was broken and his mind was lost in nightmares. He dreamed of green light and tearing metal. He dreamed of Kim Mina's face. He dreamed of the silent, dark ship. Slowly, with careful medicine, his body began to heal. The color returned to his skin. The deep wound started to close. Weeks later, he woke up. He was in a clean, white room on a space station. The lights were soft. For a moment, he was confused. Then the memory returned. The attack, the pain, the cold. A doctor came in and saw he was awake. She smiled gently. "Captain Jun, welcome back." He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. She gave him water. "The others?" he whispered. "Mina? Day?" The doctor's smile faded. She shook her head slowly. "I am sorry. You are the only one we found." Lee Jun closed his eyes. A deep pain worse than any injury filled his chest. He was alone. He had survived and they had not. It did not feel like a victory. He was moved to Earth to finish his recovery. People called him a hero, the sole survivor of Whisper 7. They gave him medals. They shook his hand. But their words felt empty. He did not feel like a hero.
He had just been the one who was left behind. When he was strong enough to walk with a cane, he received a message.
He was to meet with General Park Soo-jin. He was taken to a quiet office at Earth Defense Command. The room had a large window looking out over a green park. General Park was waiting for him. She was a serious-looking woman with sharp eyes. "Captain Jun," she said. "Please sit." How are you feeling? My body is healing, General, he said honestly. The rest? I do not know. She nodded as if she understood. You have questions. You deserve answers. She did not wait for him to ask. She told him everything. She told him about the decision to not send a fleet. She told him about Project Final Measure. She explained the Stellar Locust Charge and the mission of the EDS Vengeance. She described how they found the Cathar home system and how they killed its son. Li Jun listened. He did not interrupt. He watched her face, which was calm and sure. He learned how the star was made to grow old and die in a few hours, how its light faded and its heat vanished, how the Cathar world, and every living thing on it was frozen into silence forever. When she finished, the room was very quiet. He could hear the faint sound of children playing in the park outside. So, he said, his voice rough, they are gone. Completely, General Park said. There is nothing left. No enemy. No revenge to be taken. It is over. She stood and walked to the window, looking down at the peaceful scene. They heard the whisper from your station, she said. And we answered. Now the galaxy will hear our silence. It will be a more frightening sound than any battle cry. Li Jun understood her meaning. The message was not just for the Cathar. It was for every star in every world that might one day look at Earth with hostile eyes. Do not force our hand. Our response is final. We will not just defeat you. We will erase you from history. General Park left him alone in the room. Li Jun sat for a long time looking out at the park. The sun was warm. The sky was blue. It was a perfect, peaceful day on Earth. He was alive to see it. His people were safe. He thought about Kim Mina, who had sent the message that saved them all. He thought about Park Day, who had stood his ground. He was a survivor because of them, but he did not feel peace. He felt a cold hollow inside him. He was the keeper of a terrible truth. Humanity could be merciful and kind. They could build and create beautiful things. But if you hurt them, if you threaten their home, they would become death itself. They would reach into the heavens and put out your sun. He stood up, leaning on his cane. He was a hero. He was a symbol of survival. But as he walked out of the room, he knew the real cost of that survival. He would carry the memory of the whisper and the absolute terrifying silence that followed for the rest of his life.